Let me set the scene for you. It's a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind where the light comes through the window just right, and you've got an old record spinning on the turntable. Maybe a cup of coffee in your hand, maybe a grandchild napping in the next room. And there it is, that drum fill, the one that always made you stop whatever you were doing and just listen. You don't know the drummer's name. You probably never did. But that little burst of rhythm has stayed with you for 40 years. Here's the thing that quietly bothers me. We remember the singers, we remember the guitar players, we put their faces on t-shirts and posters. But the folks keeping the whole thing standing, the ones in the back with the sticks in their hands, most of them stayed strangers to us. And I'll be honest with you, some of those strangers were better than the legends we worship. I've spent a long time listening, and the way I see it, the history books got this one wrong. Now, you've probably been told that the famous drummers were famous because they were the best. That fame and talent line up neatly. In my experience, that's just not how it works. Fame is about timing, about the right band, about the right manager, sometimes just about being in the right city the right week. The talent is a separate story entirely. By the end of this video, I'll walk you through 15 drummers who, in my honest opinion, outplayed the household names and somehow stayed in the shadows. Let's start with Bernard Purdie. Now, some of you know the name, but most folks don't. And that's the crime. Purdie sat behind the kit for Aretha Franklin, for Steely Dan, for a list of records so long you'd lose count. He invented what's called the Purdie Shuffle, a groove so deep that other drummers studied it like scripture. He used to put signs up at his sessions claiming he'd played on Beatles records, and whether that's true or not, the man's pocket was so reliable that producers booked him sight unseen. He's the heartbeat of music you've loved your whole life. If you want to hear exactly what I mean, put on Steely Dan's Babylon Sisters from 1980 and count how long it takes before you feel that shuffle settle into your chest like a second heartbeat. That's Purdie doing something that looks simple and is anything but. Number 2 is Clyde Stubblefield, who played for James Brown. You've heard him, I promise you. The break from funky drummer became the most sampled drum pattern in recorded history. Hip-hop was built on his wrists, and yet Clyde lived modestly in Wisconsin for decades, playing small clubs, struggling with medical bills. The way I see it, when a man invents the rhythm an entire genre stands on, he ought to be a household name. He wasn't. He should have been. By some counts, that single break from the 1970 recording has been sampled over 1,000 times, showing up in records by Public Enemy, LL Cool J and Sinead O'Connor, and Clyde saw almost none of the financial reward from any of it. Third, Jim Gordon. Session player in Los Angeles whose touch was so musical that Eric Clapton called him in for Layla. That long piano coda you've heard 1,000 times, Gordon wrote it and played it. His story turned tragic later in life, and maybe that's why folks looked away. But before the trouble, his playing was about as graceful as anything that ever came out of a studio. Number 4, Jeff Porcaro. Now, some of you will say, hold on, he was in Toto, he's famous. And yes, among drummers, he's a saint. but ask the average person on the street, and the name draws a blank. Porcaro's groove on Rosanna, that halftime shuffle, is studied in music schools the world over. He passed far too young, and I think most folks never realized the quiet genius behind so many records they own. He was only 38 years old when he died in 1992, and in those 38 years, he had already played on records by Boz Scaggs, Paul McCartney, Diana Ross, and hundreds of others. The Los Angeles session world essentially stopped for a day when the news broke. Fifth on my list is Carmine Appice. Played with Vanilla Fudge, with Rod Stewart, with Beck, Bogart, and Appice. The man was a thunderstorm behind the kit, and a young John Bonham studied his approach closely. He helped invent the heavy rock drumming vocabulary that everyone else got famous for. I've watched folks credit Bonham for moves Appice was doing first. Credit where credit's due. Number 6, Cozy Powell. British drummer who played with Rainbow, with Black Sabbath, with Whitesnake, with just about every heavy band that mattered. He had a thunderous right foot and a sense of drama that turned a drum solo into a story. He died in a car accident, and somehow his name slipped out of the conversation. If it were me writing the rock history books, Cozy would have his own chapter. His 1973 solo single Dance with the Devil reached number 3 on the UK charts on the strength of drumming alone, which tells you everything about the man's ability to hold an audience without any help from a singer or a guitar. Seventh is Simon Phillips. British session monster who played with Jeff Beck, with The Who on tour, and eventually with Toto after Porcaro passed. Phillips plays a kit so large it looks like a small city, and yet his touch is light and conversational. I've watched footage of him for hours. The man does things with his left hand most drummers can't do with both. And outside of drummer circles, almost nobody knows the name. Number 8, Terry Bozzio. He came up with Frank Zappa, which means he could read music written by a madman and play it perfectly. Later, he built solo drum performances that were closer to classical compositions than rock songs. Bozzio has a vocabulary on the kit that simply doesn't exist anywhere else. He's revered by drummers and almost invisible to the general public. That gap, to me, says everything about how fame really works. His kit by the 1990s had expanded to include dozens of tom-toms and pitched drums tuned to specific notes, essentially turning one instrument into an entire orchestra that one person plays alone. Number 9 is Aynsley Dunbar. He turned down Jimi Hendrix, played with Frank Zappa, with Journey before they were famous, with Jefferson Starship, with Whitesnake. His resume is staggering, and yet ask folks to name him and you'll get silence. Dunbar's playing was tasteful, powerful, and always served the song. In my book, that's the highest compliment you can pay a drummer. 10th, Mick Tucker of the Sweet. Now, the Sweet had hits, but they were dismissed as a pop band, and Tucker's drumming got buried under that label. Listen to Ballroom Blitz again. Really listen. The fills, the dynamics, the sheer attack. That's a serious drummer hiding inside a glittery package. He passed away years back, quietly, and most rock histories barely mention him. Number 11 is Pick Withers, who played with Dire Straits in the early years.
Over my shoulder, all you can see
That subtle, jazzy touch on Sultans of Swing, the way the drums breathe around the guitar lines, that's Pick. He left the band before they became massive stadium fillers, and the famous version of Dire Straits is the one folks remember. But the soul of those first records, the part that made Mark Knopfler's guitar sing, was Withers in the back doing the careful, old-fashioned work. Twelfth, Tony Williams. Now, some jazz folks will know him, but for most everyone else, he's a stranger. Williams played with Miles Davis when he was a teenager. He reinvented how the ride cymbal could be used, and rock drummers from Mitch Mitchell onward stole from him without always knowing it. Tony crossed over into fusion later, and his fingerprints are on more rock drumming than people realize. He joined Miles Davis's second great quintet in 1963 at just 17 years old. And the recordings they made together between 1964 and 1968 changed what rhythm itself was allowed to do in a band setting. Number 13 is Liberty DeVitto, who sat behind Billy Joel for decades. Every piano-driven hit you remember from those long radio years, Liberty was the engine. He never got the spotlight, and the way that partnership ended was not kind. But the drumming on those records is masterful. Restrained when it needed to be, explosive when the song asked for it. I've watched folks dance to his work at weddings without ever knowing his name. '14th, Pete Thomas of Elvis Costello's Attractions. A drummer with the sharpest snare crack in the business and a sense of swing that made every song feel like it was leaning forward. Costello got the credit, deservedly, but the urgency in those records came from Pete's wrists. He's still out there, still playing, still mostly unknown to the casual listener. And number 15, Hal Blaine. Some of you will recognize the name now, but for most of his career, he was the invisible man behind the Wrecking Crew. The Los Angeles session players who quietly played on more hit records than anyone can count. Beach Boys records, Phil Spector records, Simon and Garfunkel, the Mamas and the Papas. Hal Blaine's drumming is woven into the soundtrack of your entire life, and for decades, the bands he played for got the credit. He finally got some recognition late in life, but it came nowhere near what he earned. By his own count, Blaine played on over 600 top 40 hits and 40 #1 records between 1962 and 1972. A run of commercial dominance that no drummer before or since has come close to matching.